It's the final week of this live program with Bishop on Air, but you can catch it live starting Monday only at America's Talking Network with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you so much for being part of Bishop on Air. We're still going to be doing content. We may do a segment, today in gun control. We'll definitely keep you updated on the latest with the state's gun ban, with litigation ongoing. No updates there, by the way, those looking into that here immediately. But obviously that September 16th bench trial in the Southern District is going to be very telling, so we'll have coverage of that. And I may do some travel across the states throughout the summer and maybe do some mini documentaries. So you'll still get stuff here with Bishop on Air. But that daily morning program, looking at stuff happening in the land of Lincoln that you've come to love, well, you'll get that at America's Talking Network. Subscribe in the details below this video, and join us each and every weekday morning. Next week, it'll be exclusively on America's Talking Network. So get the notifications, wake up with us each and every weekday morning. And it's going to be a big week next week because I'm going to be on the ground in Milwaukee during the Republican National Convention. So Illinois in Focus Daily, obviously we'll talk a lot about Illinois, but next week's going to be a lot of focus on Republican politics, as we also aim to be on the ground at the Democratic National Convention. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network, Illinois in Focus Daily, and the Center Square. So excited for this, and you guys have been pretty incredible in subscribing here, but also over at America's Talking Network. So really do appreciate that, and am humbled by your constant support. So shout out to those in the live chat, and of course, Illinois in Focus Daily. We'll talk about some more questions around President Joe Biden, with some digging in their heels one way or the other, whether he should stay in the race. And we'll also talk about the federal response in Chicago being requested after continued violence. And we'll talk with former state senator Darren Bailey. He's a Republican Trump delegate heading to Milwaukee next week. So we'll get a preview of what to expect next week with him later on today. In just a short amount of time, we're switching over to America's Talking Network with Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
What I can tell you is I'm not engaging in any hypotheticals. You can see that I'm all in Joe Biden. Joe Biden's going to be the nominee of the Democratic Party. I'm going to go out there and wholeheartedly campaign for him. I've endorsed him and Kamala Harris. He's going to be at the convention in August accepting the nomination, and I'll be cheering for him in the audience.
It's Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday answering questions about President Biden's fitness and his support for the incumbent, as Democrats continue to question whether or not Biden has the mental capacity to continue forward, not just in this term, but the next 4 years. It's an interesting election cycle, no question, as the Republican National Convention is next week. Former President Donald Trump expected to get that nomination. And then weeks later, you've got the Democrats meeting in Chicago for their convention. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for being with us each and every weekday morning. We will be on the ground at the Republican National Convention next week. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay up to date with all of our reporting from there. But we also be at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago in August. So again, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, stay up to date. So Governor J.B. Pritzker was with about 20 other governors, virtually and in person, in Washington, D.C. to meet with President Joe Biden last week. This was after the poor debate performance the week before, and Biden's having to answer questions about his mental fitness and what was displayed on the debate stage, being stuttering, incomplete sentences, didn't seem it all together. The Biden administration says that he had a cold, he had jet lag, despite almost 2 weeks since he had traveled the world, and a variety of other factors involved, but not anything to deal with Parkinson's or any other mental degradation, despite him having 2 brain aneurysms in the past, and I believe a couple of brain surgeries as well. But regardless, Democrats seem to be in a bit of a tough spot right now. Earlier on in the day, you had Illinois U.S. Representative Mike Quigley make these comments as he was walking out of a Democrat caucus meeting.
The fighting spirit and pride and courage that served the country so well 4 years ago, helped Joe Biden win, will bring the ticket down this time. He just has to step down because he can't win, and my colleagues need to recognize that. A dismissive letter is not going to change any minds.
So again, that's Quigley yesterday talking about a dismissive letter is not going to change any minds, and that letter coming from President Biden earlier this week to Democrats elected officials. Governor Pritzker yesterday asked about Quigley's response to if he should stay in the race.
Look, I think it's not unreasonable for people to have differing opinions about all this, but I know Mike Quigley. I know he does not want Donald Trump to become president of the United States. So you've seen a lot of comments by congresspeople, by others who have questions. In the end, everybody understands that we're pulling together to put our party and our party's nominee and our issues over the line. And
so Pritzker was peppered with questions yesterday. He was at an unrelated news event talking about clean energy jobs, held a brief gaggle with reporters afterwards, and this was the first time that Pritzker had been in front of Chicago media since he was at the White House meeting with President Joe Biden last week. So what about that meeting? How did that go?
Yeah, first of all, he was fully engaged. We had, around 20 governors, half of them in the room, half of them on Zoom. We had a very good discussion between us. And again, the president did a great job of answering questions throughout that meeting. Some people came away with different impressions maybe, but for the most part, and you saw that the head of the Democratic Governors Association and 2 other governors, went and did a press conference together representing all 20 of us, because again, some weren't able to be at the White House, and some of us had to go catch a plane. The truth is that it was I think a robust discussion, and I just wanted to be accurate about how I reported what happened in that meeting.
So the governor, again, being asked tons of questions about that meeting, including what he had to tell President Biden.
I said you got to get out there and talk to the American public more. But it was important. I think they took too long. I think he admitted this after the debate, for him to really go out and do press that would get national attention. I know they did some rallies along the way, but it's important for him to answer questions and talk about the issues. Hyper important. People are thinking about their own families, how they're going to deal with the kitchen table issues they've got in front of them, and their personal freedoms. And there's no candidate better on those issues than Joe Biden and, by the way, the Vice President, Kamala Harris.
Thanks, everybody.
So the governor standing by Biden, despite, the questions in the past of him wanting to aim for the White House, something he denies. He was even asked yesterday, Gretchen Whitmer, she, a governor, has said that she is not going to make a bid for the White House, even if President Biden steps down from the candidacy. Pritzker reacting to that.
What I can tell you is I'm not engaging in any hypotheticals. You can see that I'm all in for Joe Biden. Joe Biden's going to be the nominee of the Democratic Party. I'm going to go out there and wholeheartedly campaign for him. I've endorsed him and Kamala Harris. He's going to be at the convention in August, accepting the nomination, and I'll be cheering for him in the audience.
We'll talk a little bit about that August convention, but the governor also asked what if he steps down?
No, I can't imagine that. Joe Biden said he's going to be the nominee. He's planning to be at the convention. He's planning to be the guy who accepts the delegate vote that's going to occur, and so I can't imagine what else could happen.
Could there possibly be a brokered convention? A convention where you've got people saying, hey, we've got these electoral votes, we've got those electoral votes. Is that going to cause some chaos in the party in August in Chicago?
But again, I don't expect that to happen. We're going to have an orderly convention. Again, there's going to be a roll call that occurs before the convention, and then at the convention you're going to see that, and all the speeches, of course, endorsing President Biden.
So the governor essentially reiterating his support for Biden, regardless of all the questions from the likes of Mike Quigley and other Democrat elected officials. Even Illinois U.S. Senator Dick Durbin has been on record saying that there are substantial questions. But what about Sean Casten? He is a Democrat from the Chicago suburbs. He was asked by CNN yesterday about this ongoing question of, Biden's fitness going up against Trump in November.
Takeaway is great sadness that we are not having a conversation about the fact that we have two people running for president. One of them has a record that anybody would be proud to have, and the other one is an adjudicated rapist, a twice impeached convicted felon, who there is not a single American who would trust to babysit their teenage daughter. That is the conversation we have to be having over the next 3 months. We need to make sure that we can run an effective campaign on the political side of this operation. But the stakes of this are not about elections. The stakes of this are about what is the future for our country in two different scenarios. And I think there's a lot of concern about, will we be able to have that conversation in this media environment? But my God, that's the conversation we have to have.
So the conversation moving forward, you've got a lot that could happen in the weeks ahead. Because it's not just the Republican National Convention, which is next week, and we'll preview that with former Illinois State Senator Darren Bailey, a Trump delegate. But then after that, you've got the Democratic National Convention. So we've still got a whole bunch of time between now and when official nominations are made. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join us each and every weekday morning with Illinois in Focus Daily, the Center Square, and America's Talking Network. The violence in Chicago has a lot of attention on it when you have more than 100 shootings in a holiday weekend with 19 plus people fatally shot. Obviously, there's a lot of questions about the response and how officials in the Windy City are handling that. And we shared yesterday some of the comments from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, where he cast blame on decades of disinvestment, even going all the way back to blaming Nixon. He also talked about Republicans, he said, are shielding the gun lobby, trying to keep guns off the streets, he talked about. But all of those things, obviously, are reactions and kind of ways to, look at, I guess, quote, root causes. But in the immediacy of what's happening in Chicago, the question of federal assistance, especially when you see mass shootings in more suburban types of areas, like in Highland Park, where 2 years ago there was a mass shooting, and that ultimately led to state legislators enacting a ban on semi-automatic firearms, using the Highland Park shooting, a mass shooting, as why they needed to take those steps. Now, of course, all of that's being challenged in the courts, with September 16th being a bench trial in the Southern District of Illinois challenging the gun ban. We'll obviously have more coverage of that here with America's Talking Network and Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. But some are saying that that's not helping with the violence in Chicago. So what about federal assistance? There's always been questions: should the National Guard be called in? While that's not the type of federal assistance that the Chicago officials are calling for, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson earlier this week, talking about the violence in Chicago over the weekend, did say that they are looking for those federal resources similar to what other areas get when there are mass shootings.
And I know our federal partners at the Crime Gun Information Center will continue to work hand in glove with the Chicago Police Department to track crime guns and hold people who are choosing to wreak havoc on my streets accountable. And finally, I want to announce that I have personally taken steps to ensure that our city is getting all of the resources that it needs from the federal government. And prior to this weekend, my administration took the necessary steps to prepare for what has been historically violent weekends.
And the mayor went on to talk about the federal resources that he says that he's requesting.
And last month, I called on our federal partners to respond to the mass shootings in the city of Chicago. And I've called upon them to respond to the mass shootings like we've experienced in Chicago, just like they do in other places in this country. And I'm hopeful that our ongoing discussions will ensure that our state partners, as well as our federal partners, will swiftly come to the support of the city of Chicago. The city cannot afford to wait any longer.
So again, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson talking about those federal resources. Governor J.B. Pritzker was asked about this yesterday at an unrelated event, and he says that it took a letter from the governor to get those resources. At least the reaction from the White House and the federal government took a letter from Governor Pritzker to make that happen.
Yeah, actually, it took a letter from the governor in order to kick that off. So I was asked by the city of Chicago to write the letter for them, and so we did. We sent that to the White House and to the federal government. As we saw with Highland Park, where there was a lot of support that came from the FBI, the ATF, and other federal agencies, that's what the city of Chicago should get. We also need a lot of interdiction on the many guns that are coming over the border into Illinois from states that have very lax gun laws. We need more enforcement from the federal government. We're doing it, by the way, state police, CPD, but more help from the federal government is necessary. And so, yeah, it was the right thing for him to do.
So, obviously, the governor saying it took a letter from the governor, but Mayor Johnson saying he reached out a month ago to get resources in place. Johnson, again, being asked about what those resources are. You heard mentions of Highland Park, for instance, the federal resources that descended upon that city after a mass shooting on an Independence Day parade. And what about Chicago? It seems that there are mass shootings every weekend and dozens of people shot at any one of these instances. Here's the mayor again talking about the types of federal resources he says they are in need of to have the same types of resources that other areas get.
Yeah, sure. I'll offer that one more time. So there are a number of resources. So it's victim support services. Let me just make it even real simple, okay? So remember the mass shooting that happened in Highland Park and all the services that they got? That's what we're asking for. That's all. What other suburban places get around the country when mass shootings happen like that, we're just simply saying that Chicago deserves that as well. And so I put that request in, how many weeks ago? At least a month ago. That's all it is. So if you look at the support services that places get when mass shootings happen, that's what we want in Chicago. Okay?
Obviously, those resources can go a long way, intelligence gathering, victim services, and such. But the mayor also discussed, again, some of the blame that he sees should be leveled here.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So for federal support, I mean, it's everything. It's everything from boots on the ground to public health support, victims of violence support. As I said before, the fact that it's so easy to get guns in the city of Chicago and cities across America, to me, that's the crime. You have an entire political party that is protecting a lobbyist entity to make sure that legal guns can flow through the streets of places like Chicago and Baltimore, Miami, Los Angeles. To me, that is criminal. It should be brought up on charges.
So the mayor, we heard those comments yesterday, along with the comments he said about Richard Nixon and the root causes of crime, he says, is from community disinvestment and such. Clearly, we'll hear more about Chicago, especially as we get closer to the convention in August, and what kinds of resources are going to be used to ensure that, people are able to attend the conference safely. It is America's Talking Network with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join us each and every weekday morning here. Don't forget also, subscribe to Illinois in Focus anywhere you get podcasts, and you'll get that daily podcast if you're on the road and you can't watch a video. So make that happen. And don't forget, go check out thecentersquare.com, thecentersquare.com, where you can get all the latest headlines you need. And you can sign up for the newsletter and more, thecentersquare.com. All right, we'll have more here with Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, and next week, find this program exclusively with America's Talking Network and the Center Square, as we are going to be on the ground at the Republican National Convention, credentialed media, bouncing around all over the place. I'll have exclusive interviews one-on-one with people. I'll take part in gaggles. I may go to some of the off-site events. It's going to be an interesting week. But to give us a bit of a perspective as to what to expect and why this may be important for Illinoisans is a delegate for former President Donald Trump for the Republican nomination, and that is former State Senator Darren Bailey. He joins us live here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Senator, thanks for taking time. And obviously, this is going to be a pretty busy week, but what are you anticipating going on here, and why is this important?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement. I was an alternate delegate in 2020, but unfortunately, because of COVID, they didn't, nothing was held, so I wasn't able to participate. So this is all new to me, and I don't know. I sense excitement in the Republican Party as far as, just the disastrous policies of Joe Biden and the actual incompetence, and knowing that we can get somebody back in place who has a proven track record, someone who truly cares about America and had 4 years of absolute prosperity for our country. So there's excitement knowing that Illinois can be play a part in making that happen.
So talk about some of the logistics here. How much have you been given advanced knowledge of the schedules, and any ideas to when we're going to see maybe the announcement of a vice president for the former president heading into November? Any insight you can give us that really hasn't been broadly reported?
Well, really the only insight that I know is that security is going to be very, very high. We've been, I actually made reservations off-site at first, and then was told that, hey, you better stay with the delegation at the hotels, or otherwise you might not get in. So security is going to be high. Actually, I'm supposed to get the agenda today, I think. So I haven't really seen a lot. So still waiting on that. And yeah, rumor had it that President Trump was going to pick there may be an announcement yesterday. That, of course, didn't happen. So in Trump world, things happen as President Trump wants them to happen, and we all sit back and kind of wait for that to happen.
Senator, tell us about the Republican platform. I've seen a few headlines here and there about issues concerning abortion. I even saw a headline about whether or not they're going to have state by state reciprocity for concealed carry, for instance. I mean, how important is that Republican platform for people in Illinois, for people in Texas, for people in Washington State or Pennsylvania? How important is that platform that it, I guess, walks that line between what some people may say is extreme versus what some people may say is a big tent?
Well, I think it's important to keep that platform. I like our platform. Sometimes here in Illinois, Republicans don't always stick with that platform, but that's one of the reasons why I choose to be involved, is to make sure that platform stays the same. I think I personally, that the people of Illinois know that I am unapologetically pro-life, period, and I will do everything within my influence to make sure that the platform does protect life 100%. I think everyone in Illinois knows that I will do everything possible to protect our Second Amendment rights as much as we can. So again, that's why I chose to be a part of this movement and to protect the integrity of what I believe are the true answers to turning this country around that the Republican Party has. We've just got to bind together, stick together, and stand on that platform. And if we do that, I think the American people will see something. See something that's going to make life, better here in America. Because I don't think over these last 4 years, I don't know of anyone that can contend that they are better off today than they were.
Former State Senator Darren Bailey with us here with Illinois in Focus Daily, getting a preview of the Republican National Convention that is starting next week in Milwaukee. The Center Square will be there on the ground, and we'll bring you exclusive reports here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Senator, when it comes to Illinois' role in all of this, obviously Republicans are in the super minority. You've got, 19 electoral votes? Obviously Illinois is a winner-take-all state. Going into the convention with those, characteristics of Illinois Republicans in the super minority state, that's likely going to have all the delegates go to Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee is going to be. How can Illinois, what kind of role do you think Illinois is going to have in that scenario?
I think that if the people of Illinois will show up to vote, Greg, we when I ran for governor in 22, we saw a 45% turnout. I mean, this recent primary, we had a 23% turnout. People are so frustrated, and that sometimes is the American spirit. It's just like, to push aside anything that's not working or anything that's false or fake. And a lot of people have done that with government. They've just pushed it aside. They've got the noise out. They're no longer watching the news. They're no longer checked in. And their form of rebellion seems to be, I'm not going to vote. My vote doesn't count. Chicago, it's crooked, it's rigged, it's blah, blah, blah. If people will show up and vote, and we can see a truly high turnout of only the 70%, all we need is 60% turnout of the 70% registered voters here in Illinois. And I think if we do that, I am confident that there are many conservative, I'm going to call them minded people. This whole Biden debacle, I mean, I am literally embarrassed for him. Watching that debate last week, I have no idea how anyone can put their faith and confidence in what's going on. So something's got to change if Republicans will stand true to their platform. I've been preaching that for the last 7 years. 7 years ago in 2017, right about now, I started running I announced my intention to run in a primary against a state representative, and I've seen the mess. I've witnessed the mess, but it's nothing that can't be fixed if we stick to our platform and if people show up to vote.
If you could expand a bit on those who continue support for President Biden as the incumbent on the other side of the aisle. Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday said he doesn't want to look at hypotheticals. He's standing behind Biden and Kamala Harris heading into the convention. I mean, did he not see what others have seen? Do you feel that he's shared enough of the conversation he had with President Biden and party leaders to reinforce that support? Your thoughts on that?
Well, J.B. Pritzker's a liar, and you can't believe anything that comes out of that man's mouth. But I've said it in the debates 2 years ago, and I'm going to say it again in November when that day to cast our votes comes. It would not surprise me at all if J.B. Pritzker's name was not in that slot. So there is no way Joe Biden can continue on the journey that he's on. It's just the debates showed and proved too much. I think a lot of people were shocked, but the agonizing thing is the amount of people who subscribe to that side of the aisle to sit there and stay behind that and say that that's okay, that's normal, I'm still going to support that party. That's the doom and demise that I think is going to drag our nation down. And again, if Republicans will stick to their values, we've got the ideas: less government, lower taxes, protecting life, protecting the Second Amendment. We've got it. But unfortunately, the message too often gets watered down. And I do believe that President Trump can restore those values and faith in our party. He struggled with our party, for when he was president 8 years ago. So I think I think if the Illinois Republican Party and the party in general gets behind him and sticks to what can fix this nation, I think we can see some better days ahead. I truly have faith in that.
Just a couple of more issues with former state senator Darren Bailey, a delegate for former President Donald Trump heading into the November election. Before that, of course, we got the Republican National Convention next week. But Darren, you've got questions about voter integrity, right? I mean, on a couple of issues there. One, how confident are you that Illinois is doing it right? Be it 40 some odd days of voting. It's not election day. It's like election month, including 2 weeks after election day. Do you have confidence in that system? And then also, you've got members of Congress looking to ensure that people who vote in federal elections are American citizens. Well, it appears Democrats saying they don't want voter ID, for instance. Your thoughts on the integrity of the vote?
Well, there are concerns. It's certainly not bulletproof. But the problem I contend with, until we see a high voter turnout, it's difficult. The Democrats are able, in the governor's election, J.B. Pritzker put $35 million behind, mail-in voting initiative, and it worked because they got votes in. Who can contend when we still have less than a 50% turnout? My argument is that if the people aren't going to show up, that argument is null and void. People have got to show up. And if they show up, there is no way in this world that Joe Biden or any Democrat will be the next president. And so that's my argument. It's been my argument all along. As a state representative in 2019 and a senator in 2021, I put out legislation to go back to paper ballots. I mean, why on earth why is everything electronic now and it takes longer, than paper ballots used to? I mean, so there are issues, there are concerns. Why not have voter ID? I mean, I literally stood up on the House and the Senate floor when we proposed and talked about voter ID, and all I heard was mainly from our friends in Chicago was well, what a burden that was going to put, a financial burden to have to pay for the card, and that was my argument. I said, hey, I'm for lower taxes and less everything, but if we have to, I know that. 5 years ago, some minors could go to the Secretary of State's office and get an ID card for $5. So if we have to pay and give people their voter ID cards, driver's license, whatever, I think that would be that'd be a very wise investment to help build the faith in the integrity of our voting system. But unfortunately, the majority of our elected officials don't want to hear or see that.
Former State Senator Darren Bailey, a Republican delegate for former President Donald Trump heading into the RNC. Again, the center square will be on the ground at the RNC. Senator, I imagine, will cross paths there. So greatly appreciate you taking time and previewing some of the conversations we expect to hear in the week ahead.
I look forward to it.
All right. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you for being here each and every weekday morning. And be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us as we give you a lowdown of what's going on in the land of Lincoln each and every weekday morning. All right. America's Talking Network on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Subscribe to Illinois in Focus anywhere you get your podcasts. And of course, follow us at thecentersquare.com. Beginning Monday, Illinois in Focus Daily will only be on America's Talking Network on YouTube. I need you to go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell at America's Talking Network. Link in the description. Because if you're waking up every morning with us and the live chat is a rockin', that live chat for the morning show will only be with America's Talking Network, not with Bishop on Air. Now, Bishop on Air still staying. We're here. All right, I'll do stuff on my own time. Travel the states, talk with people, make mini documentaries, maybe do a Today in Gun Control segments. We'll definitely be keeping you posted on the latest on litigation against Illinois' gun ban and other Illinois laws. So that'll still be ongoing. But for that daily news program with interviews and reviews of things happening in the state of Illinois, I need you to go and like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. America's Talking Network. Let's continue to grow that. Big things ahead, and we're starting Monday exclusively Illinois in Focus Daily with America's Talking Network. And it's going to be a big week because we're going to be on the ground at the Republican National Convention. You'll wake up each morning with reviews of everything that happened the day before, exclusive interviews, one-on-ones, as we ramp up to the official nomination of former President Donald Trump. That's next week with the RNC. And then in August, all indication is we're set to be credentialed with the Center Square at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. So Milwaukee next week, I'm on the road. Wake up each morning with America's Talking Network and Illinois in Focus Daily. And then we'll be back covering stuff happening here in Illinois and keep you posted. Captain Mike in the chat says 8 o'clock. I think that's kind of the sweet spot where I can get things together, make it happen. So around 8 o'clock, yeah, that should be it. And shout out to those in the chat room. You guys, I'm humbled by all of you. From Captain Mike to John to Tenebris, Nakuda, Randall, Treston, Joseph on Facebook. And by the way, those on Facebook, if you're watching this on Facebook, be sure to go to America's Talking Network on YouTube, because it's not going to be on the Bishop on Air Facebook page. I'll still do Bishop on Air from time to time, but if you want the live program, you've got to get it at America's Talking Network. Those on X as well. Get over to America's Talking Network. I'll share links to the live show on those channels, but if you want to watch it live and interact in the chat room, it's going to be at America's Talking Network. With Illinois in Focus Daily, guys, I greatly appreciate you being part of the program each and every weekday morning. It is humbling. If you need to get a hold of me, let me know where I can go. I've got several requests for speaking engagements. I'll see if I can make that happen this summer, but I definitely want to do some travel across the states and do some mini documentaries. It is going to be a pretty busy summer. I mean, we've got the state fair coming up as well, so have yourselves a great day. Thank you so much. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with Bishop on Air, but go over to America's Talking Network, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because Monday is that date certain where you're only going to be able to get Illinois in Focus Daily at America's Talking Network.